The night was cold, the rain merciless, and the sound of roaring engines cut through the stillness of the small town's outskirts. On a lonely stretch of highway, a little girl, no older than 8, stumbled into the middle of the road, waving her trembling hands at a group of bikers speeding by. Her face was drenched in tears and rain, her hair tangled, her voice breaking as she cried out, "Please, please arrest me." The bikers hit the brakes, tires screeching against the wet asphalt. The leader, a burly man with tattoos and a leather jacket, stared at her through the rain, his heart pounding. What could make a child, this small, this fragile, say something like that? Before we dive deeper into this heartbreaking story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Royal Stories. Every click helps us share real, emotional tales that remind the world what humanity truly means. The leader of the bikers, known as Hawk, slowly stepped off his Harley, the engine still rumbling behind him. He crouched down to the girl's level, his boots sinking into the mud. Her small hands were trembling as she clutched a worn-out backpack, and her lips quivered with every breath. She looked terrified, more of life itself than of him. He noticed bruises along her wrist and a deep sadness in her eyes that no child should ever have to carry. When she whispered again, "Please arrest me. I did something bad," Hawk's chest tightened. But he knew that behind those words wasn't guilt, it was pain. The bikers gathered around, their faces a mix of confusion and concern. These were men who had seen their fair share of darkness, ex-convicts, wanderers, broken souls who had rebuilt their lives through loyalty and brotherhood. But even they weren't prepared for this. The girl said her name was Lily. Her voice cracked as she spoke about her mother, about the house she used to live in, and how she had run away because of what was happening there. Her mother's new boyfriend was cruel. He drank, shouted, and sometimes hit her for reasons she didn't understand. "He told me it was my fault when Mom got hurt," she said softly, "so I wanted to go to jail, because bad people go there, right?" The rain turned heavier, but no one moved. Hawk clenched his jaw, his mind flashing back to his own childhood, the smell of beer, the sting of a belt, the helplessness of being small and unseen. He saw himself in her, a version of him that still cried in the corners of his mind. He told the others to bring her to their clubhouse, a quiet place on the edge of town where the engines rested and the walls carried stories of redemption. They gave Lily dry clothes, a blanket, and warm soup. For the first time that night, she stopped shaking. Over the next few days, the bikers learned more about Lily's life. Her mother, once gentle and loving, had become trapped in a toxic relationship after losing her job. The man she lived with isolated her, controlled her, and hurt both of them. Lily had escaped after hearing her mother scream one night and seeing blood on the floor. She thought by turning herself in, she could somehow stop the pain, take the blame, and make it right. Hawk realized that this little girl had more courage than most grown men he knew. She had faced the kind of nightmare that breaks people, but she was still standing. Hawk made a promise to her that day. He told her she wasn't going to jail. She was going home, but to a new kind of home. A place where no one hurt her again. The bikers contacted social services, told them the truth, and stayed by Lily's side during every step of the process. They even went to her house, confronted the man who had destroyed her childhood, and made sure the law took care of him this time. Hawk's men stood silently as police cars arrived, their engines idling like beasts ready to defend. For Lily, justice wasn't just served, it was protected by the very people society once feared. Weeks passed. Lily began smiling again. She loved sitting near the bikes, her tiny hands tracing the chrome designs, her laughter mixing with the sound of engines like a melody of healing. She called Hawk uncle. The men, who once lived without direction, now found themselves watching over her like she was their shared miracle. She would run around the clubhouse, her laughter echoing through walls that had once heard nothing but regret. One night, as they sat around a fire, Lily looked up at Hawk and asked, "Why did you help me?" He didn't answer right away. He just smiled faintly and said, "Because someone should have helped me when I was your age. I guess I'm just making it right." Lily's story spread through the town. People who once saw the bikers as outlaws began to see them as protectors. They organized charity rides for children's shelters, collected toys and clothes, and raised awareness about child abuse. Hawk and his men became living proof that even broken men can become heroes if given a reason. But for Hawk, it wasn't about fame. It was about one little girl who changed everything, the child who taught them all what strength really looked like. Months later, Lily's mother was finally free of her abuser and entered a recovery program. When she reunited with Lily under the watchful eyes of the bikers, it was emotional beyond words. Tears, apologies, forgiveness, it was all there. Hawk stood quietly in the background, knowing his job was done. But as Lily ran to her mother's arms, she looked back and smiled at him through her tears. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice carried by the wind. And in that moment, Hawk knew he had found something far greater than redemption. He had found peace. Life went on. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, but the bikers never forgot that night in the rain when a little girl begged to be arrested, and ended up saving them instead. Her innocence had become their mirror, showing them that kindness could still exist in broken places, and that second chances weren't just for children, they were for everyone. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Every story we share carries a piece of real emotion, a glimpse of hope, and a reminder that love can change even the darkest paths. Speech Balloon special request to all viewers. In the comments, tell us, what would you have done if that little girl stood in front of you that night? Your words might inspire someone who truly needs to hear them today.